and welcome to a great session. We're looking forward to it. So, today we have an exemplary woman with us, Rashmi Puchha, who is a certified integrative nutrition health coach and founder of inari.org. She has been working on women's hormonal cycles, women's mental, physical health, and she has had great experiences on regulating the menstrual cycles using techniques other than medication. So she has done remarkable work in this. And in one of her videos that I saw, I heard her mentioning of the inner season in the menstrual cycle or in the cycle of a woman's life, which is so relatable and so amazing that we have our own summers, winters, autumns, and springs within us. It is so relatable to any woman. So I think her perspective of looking at the female cycle and looking at the health of women is terrific. And I won't take too much time, and I will immediately hand it over to her so that she can begin. Over to you, Rashmi. Please go ahead.
Thank
We
you,
welcome you all. We warmly welcome you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Can I please request everyone to switch off your mute your audio and please switch on your video. Could I request everyone to please switch on their videos? And it's okay if you're not dressed up. It's okay if there are kids in the background. Your house is messy. You're wearing your nightshirt. It's okay. Nobody's gonna judge you here. I'm doing the same thing, right? So please, guys, because otherwise, I'm speaking to myself because the only face I can see on the screen is just names and nothing else. It'll be really nice if some of you could switch on your cameras. Come on. Okay, I can see some people. Okay. Cool. I think maybe it's a holiday and everyone is reluctant, so I'm going to just begin. But I hope by the end of the session everyone's got their cameras on. Um, I'll start with a very simple question, or not even a question, a simple fact that men have and listen to this very carefully, okay? As women, we eat, drink, fast, all we sleep, everything we do is exactly like men, right? And you'll be surprised to know that men actually have a 24 hours hormone cycle, whereas women have on an average, a 28 days hormone cycle. Um, our hormone cycle is actually aligned to our menstrual cycle. So and also, just in case you don't know, 28 days is considered to be the average menstrual cycle length. When I say menstrual cycle, what I'm referring to is the first day of your period to the last day of your or to the first day of the next period. So that duration, typically it's 28 days. What is normal is plus minus 7 days. Okay, so remember that. So even if you have a 21 days cycle, it is considered to be normal. A 35 days is also considered to be normal. So 21 to 35 days is normal. Remember this. Now, what happens? What really happens during this entire? Let's for example, for the sake of convenience, we'll take 28 days today because most of you are likely to be at 28, and it'll just become easy for us to explain this. So what happens is in a 28-day cycle, your hormone go up and down. There are multiple different hormones that we all have. Now, whether you have PMS, if you have, I should say, so if you have PMS or cramps or thyroid, or and 1 in 5 women in India have PCOS, right? So in case there is anyone here who has PCOS, PCOD, any of those things, understand this, that it is only and only because your hormones are not aligned and not in sync, not the way they're supposed to be. Added to that, if you are in perimenopause, what is perimenopause? It's about the 10 to 15 years period before you hit menopause, right? So on an average, people again reach or touch menopause around 50. And if you take 10, 15 years, so 35 plus, you must have heard it's difficult to conceive after 35. It's not necessarily true, but that whole statement comes because post 35, a lot of women tend to enter perimenopause. So when you are in those years, you'll again start feeling hot flashes and anxiety and things and so on, and so weight gain. You'll see women starting to gain weight once they touch 40, and all of this is because of the hormonal fluctuations. Now, one disclaimer, just in case anyone here is expecting, okay, or has a small baby who is, or you're still lactating and breastfeeding, then in that case, you should not follow. I mean, today we're not really going to talk about how to lose weight, but some of the things that we're going to talk about are not relevant to people who are pregnant or lactating, simply because your hormone cycle is different. And I mean, I would suggest that if you are one of those, then just listen to your doctor or listen to your mom or grandmom, right? Just ignore this session completely, because one is, you should not even be aiming at weight loss at this point of time. Anyway, so coming back to what I was saying now, I think Rudrakshi very sweetly mentioned something that I always say. So by the way, everything that I'm saying in this session, everything is scientifically backed. There's nothing that are loose statements, so to speak. Now what happens is, in your, okay, you need to understand one thing. So like I said, your menstrual cycle duration is anywhere between 21 days to 35 days. Anything below and above that, you probably need to see a gynac. Once in a while, it's okay for cycles to go topsy-turvy. That's considered to be normal as well. But now this is, therefore, we are speaking about people who might have some hormonal issues, and the rest, all women who are essentially bleeding, right? Now you have, like Dakshi touched upon, you have 4 phases in your menstrual cycle. Um, the 4 phases being menstruation, that's the number one. Menstruation is something that we all know, right? That's the phase when we are bleeding. Your period is your menstrual phase. The next one is follicular stage. Now you've heard of menstrual, and then there's something else that you might have heard of, right? There's something called ovulation. Ovulation is when when your chances of getting pregnant increase, right? Because you are fertile, so to speak. Now between ovulation, so ovulation is approximately a 2 to 3 days window in the entire month. It's a very short window. Now, between ovulation and menstruation is something called the follicular stage. And after ovulation comes the luteal phase. Now, it's important to remember this, and I'll explain very quickly why. Remember again, 4 phases: menstruation, follicular, ovulation, and luteal. Okay, these are the 4 stages. Now, what happens in those phases is what makes things interesting. When you are in your menstrual phase, your estrogen and your progesterone, 2 main hormones in your body, they are flat. Uh, as you go towards ovulation, your estrogen levels start rising up. They peak at ovulation, and then they start dropping down. Okay. Now remember that estrogen and progesterone have an inverse cycle. So while you're ovulating and your estrogen is high, your progesterone is low. What is supposed to happen now is estrogen is supposed to go down, and your progesterone is supposed to rise, right? Now, in most women, in most of us, there is a problem of estrogen dominance, which is what causes so progesterone, basically the foods that we're supposed to eat to kind of raise the progesterone levels, are typically either missing, or we're eating the bad kind of wrong kind of foods at the wrong time of the month, which causes PMS, which causes period cramps. So for those of you who suffer from those, remember that it's because of your luteal phase or your progesterone that things are going wrong. Weight loss. A lot of you will see that you put in a lot of effort to lose weight, but you're not able to lose weight. Why? Because again, your hormones are probably out of sync. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to briefly touch upon how you should eat, sleep, fast, everything dependent on your menstrual cycle. Now, I know it sounds like we're talking about hormones, and the session is about weight loss and good health and all of that, but I'm just setting the stage because the way men lose weight and the way women lose weight has to be different. Because if you go after weight loss, if you do all of that stuff, I mean, if you're on a diet, any particular kind of diet, without being aware of what's happening to your hormones, it can cause you more damage. And it's not very complicated. It's actually very, very simple once you understand how to just follow this. And for life, like, losing weight will become a cakewalk. You can just decide that, okay, I want to shed 5 kilos, or I want to reduce my inches, and my waist should become slimmer. It can become super simple. You can gain weight, you can lose weight at your will, if you understand the strategy once and for all. Now, what happens, so we will connect back to the hormone bit towards the end. Now I'll jump straight into the weight loss bit. Guys, if you have, okay, a quick thing, in case you have anything to say, if I know, since y'all have at least switched off your cameras, I can't see, like there's barely anyone who I can look at, but at least drop in a comment in the chat box so that in case there's a question, I'll just take it up right away. So anywhere where you feel that you're getting stuck or you don't understand, please feel free to just ping me on the chat. Now, okay, so now the interesting bit for which you are here, right? Why do you, we will try and understand, why do you gain or lose weight? It's actually very simple. We all know that the body needs energy to do various things, right? Now, how does the body get this energy? The body gets energy from two sources. One is sugar and one is fat. Now, when I say sugar, I also mean carbs, because carbohydrates essentially are converted into sugar, right? Into glucose when it enters your bloodstream. So the moment we understand how to switch between a fat burn mode and a sugar burn mode, you will understand to switch how do you, so most of us, okay, let me take a step back. Most of us, by the way, are sugar burners. The question to ask yourself is, are you a sugar burner or a fat burner? Now, how do you know whether your body is getting this fuel from sugar or is it getting it from fat? Because ideally speaking, we want it to kind of go to the fat and break that down and take that before we eat more stuff, right? But and if you look at our ancestors, they were naturally in a sugar burn mode, and they naturally fluctuated their burning from sugar burn to fat burn. Because if you think about it, they ate their dinners really really early, and what happens is, when you eat your dinner early, whatever food you have eaten, obviously there's an insulin spike, right? So when you eat your dinner really early, it's giving you an opportunity, your body, to have that insulin spike and then come back down. And when it comes back down, you essentially start burning, your insulin is regulated. I think I'll have to there's so many concepts, honestly. Each of these could be a 2 hour session, so I'm trying to rush through a lot of this stuff, because I want to cover these things, but I think I'll explain a couple of things in detail. I think especially the sugar burn and fat burn, how it works. So what happens when you eat your food? Okay, when you're eating anything, pretty much anything, whatever sugar is there. So when you're eating carbs or sugar, so what happens is your body takes as much as it needs, it burns it for energy, and then whatever is left, it goes and gets stored in your liver as fat. Okay, now when you keep eating sugar, when you keep eating carbs, and when I say sugar and carbs, guys, it's also fruits. Okay, fruits is also sugar. It's your cookies are also sugar. I'm not just talking about refined sugar. Okay, I'm talking about all kinds of stuff. So pasta has sugar in it. Most of the foods that you see in the market, most of them would have, on the packaging, you'll find added sugar, glucose, fructose. Most of the things with OSE at the end are essentially different formats of sugar. I'm also talking about carbs. When I say carbs, I'm talking about rotis, I'm talking about rice, I'm talking about pastas, I'm talking about pizzas, I'm talking about all kinds of your millets as well, your bajra, jowar, all of this. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't eat that, but I'm just trying to explain first what happens. So when you're eating any of these things, and pretty much in the Indian diet, every meal has a large component of this. What happens is, again, like I said, the body quickly uses it up, because it's the easiest form for the body to use for energy. It uses it up. The remaining gets stored in the liver as fat. And when the body doesn't get food, for instance, for some time, that's when it goes to the fat stores and breaks down and uses it as fuel for energy. Right now, what happens is, when you're constantly eating sugar, again, so you, like I said, again, you keep depositing the extra sugar keeps getting deposited as fat, and unfortunately, most of it settles around your waist areas, and which is why you'll see that after some time, if you're eating unhealthy constantly, your midriff, your belly fat area starts getting larger and larger and larger. So what we need to do is really understand that, how do you therefore switch yourself or become metabolically flexible, like I said, between sugar burning and fat burning. If you learn to do that, it's super simple. You can burn fat, you can lose weight in minutes. I mean, not minutes, but you can lose weight in days, completely. Now, now for men, this works perfectly. Okay, they can do it anytime. It is not a problem. For women, and this is why I was talking and harping so much about the hormones thing before I said any of this, there are days of the month where you need to have high carb food, where your body needs to be on a carb burn mode and not on a fat burn mode. Because what happens is, remember we spoke about the progesterone hormone, which is towards the end of your cycle. For the body to make progesterone hormone, it needs carbs. So it needs your potatoes. It need, you get a lot of craving before the period, for potato chips, for example. Now your body needs potatoes, because it needs the carbs from there, and that is why you get those cravings. Unfortunately, what all most of us end up doing is eating a lot of junk around that time. We start binge eating on chips, on sweets, and all of that. It's, remember again, your body is craving for that stuff because it needs to make carbs. And I'm not saying it means that you can have your potato chips and sugar and sweet, but the moment you're conscious that yes, my body is asking for carbs, you know that you have to give it good carbs, and that's when, so that's when you need to be on a carb burn mode without fail. So what happened, like I said again, so you can switch your body between a carb burn mode and a fat burn mode, and you should ideally be switching them every now and then. Uh, Also remember that this switching needs to be in alignment with your menstrual cycle. So there are parts of the month where you switch it on a fat burn mode. There are parts of the month where you switch it on a carbs burn mode. I'll give you one very interesting tip. The first half of your cycle, okay, right from menstruation, maybe skip the first 2 days of your period, maybe, because some people are very uncomfortable. But all the way up to the 14th, 15th day, you'll see that your energy is very high, but your appetite is very, very low. This happens because of estrogen. It's a wonderful hormone, right? It makes you feel good. It makes you feel attractive. It makes you feel more social. And before I move on to the next thing, I'd like to talk a little bit about this. So estrogen is that hormone which can actually make you feel like come alive. You'll be surprised to know, and I actually, intuitively you'll know this around ovulation. Like I said, remember, estrogen peaks at ovulation, right, which is roughly in the middle of your cycle. Ovulation, now think about it, nature has created us in a way that the woman's body is capable of procreation, right? And that's one of our jobs. I know it sounds horrible, but it's one of the tasks that nature has equipped us with, right? That okay, we need to procreate to keep the human race going. Now around ovulation is when you're the most fertile. So think about it. Your body therefore naturally makes you feel a lot more confident and outgoing. You look actually prettier around ovulation. You're the most confident around ovulation. You secrete a different smell. Your voice changes. You just feel a lot more self-confident and a lot more attractive, even to to the male around you. Um, the next phase, when your estrogen starts going down and your progesterone starts rising up. Now think about it. Progesterone, or the luteal phase rather, is when your body automatically gets ready for pregnancy. Now this happens every month. Now we might not get pregnant, and therefore the uterus lining is shed during the menstrual phase. But what is happening during this phase is your body is preparing for pregnancy. It is not interested in sending you out to socialize. It is not interested in in you going out and partying or doing any of those things. It is not interested in you losing weight either. It wants you to gain weight. It wants you to have all the reserves in the body. It wants you to be ready for a pregnancy. You understand? So which is why this part, the second phase, is when you'll see your inner critic wake up. You'll start suddenly feeling a lot more critical about yourself. You'll start also feeling like a lot more inward looking. It's a phase where you're more inward looking, where you are probably more reflective. So even from a work perspective, since the session is I mean, your organization is helping you do it. I mean, I think it's also right for me to talk about a little bit about work. So you'll see the first half of your menstrual cycle is when you're likely to, like I said, be in the mood of socializing, more confident, and all of that. So if you have meetings which are important, and you need to make a presentation to a client or any of those, try and schedule it in the first half of your menstrual cycle. And in the second half of your menstrual cycle, ideally speaking, it should be doing a lot more organizational work, stuff which you are working in either very small teams, or where you need to think and plan stuff, or where it's more your own thing, individual task, your paperwork, all of those things. And I understand it might sound like it's not very practical, but even if you're just aware of this, it helps you kind of calibrate yourself and say that, okay, you know what, I know I'm feeling quieter. I know I'm feeling a lot more hungrier. I know I'm feeling cranky, but all of this is probably because my period is around the corner, and it's the 8, 10, 12 days before my period that I am going to go through all of these. So I always say this, that awareness is half the battle won.
Oh, auntie nahi sunta.
Sorry, someone said something. Please go ahead.
I think that was by mistake.
By mistake, yeah, no problem. So I was saying that yeah, so if you are aware of what's happening inside your body, you'll probably not battle with some of these issues, especially weight loss, because for all the body positivity and all of those talks that we have, and I'm a huge body positivity believer, so I'm not saying that people need to lose weight or any of that stuff, because honestly, weight is just a number. It doesn't matter. But if it matters to you, and if you want to lose it, then that's what we are here for. But remember one thing, before anything else, what matters is your gut microbiome. And as a woman, very, very, very important to learn how to balance your hormones, because if your hormones are not balanced, everything else is going to go for a toss, from hair to skin to weight to your mood swings to, I mean, it creates a cascade of problems there. So the first thing is to balance your hormones. So even if you want to lose weight, no matter what anyone says, if it is not being aligned to your menstrual cycle, please be aware. And that is why I'm telling you again and again and again, around ovulation, in your luteal phase, please make sure that you eat carbs, especially in the late luteal phase, which is just a week before the period, and around ovulation. Your body needs carbs, your body needs different foods. Make sure that you get those no matter what. This is not the time for weight loss, because if you go after weight loss, you will just suppress one of your hormones, and by the way, the effect shows almost 3 months later. So if you are really messing up your schedule now, if you're under a lot of stress, if you're not sleeping well enough, there are different hormones which get imbalanced, causing a cascading effect, and that shows up only 2-3 months later. That's how long it takes for the ovulation cycle to either correct or to even go topsy-turvy. So be very, very, very careful about this. Any questions so far? I'm going to just take a pause before I move ahead and ask any questions. Please, guys, shoot. Come on, there are no questions. Is anyone even listening to me?
There is a question from Suvarna.
Yeah.
Besides food, what are the factors that give hormonal surges?
Good question. So I'll cover this up. Okay, I'll in fact cover this up right now, because I think it's a great question. Remember one thing, before I even straight answer this question, I think I'll give you 3 strategies, okay, which can actually, so if you go to a doctor, they'll tell you to take medicines if your hormones are not balanced, right? Now, what can you do to what other than and I'm not an advocate of medicines at all. And there have been hundreds of cases where I have worked with women where we have fixed the hormonal imbalance with just food itself. So to answer your question, Suvarna, food is great. The other thing that I personally feel is very, very, very important is fasting. You must have seen fasting in almost every culture. There is a customer fasting. In fact, today is Shivratri, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Today is Shivratri, yeah. So a lot of people fasting today. Now let me just take away the myths of fasting. Okay, when you're eating fruits, when you're having juices, when you're eating, I don't know, aloo shida or whatever else it is that people eat during fasting, that is not fasting. When I am talking about fasting, I'm talking about not having anything other than water. Okay, water with a little bit of salt added is great. Yes, I know people have heard of bulletproof coffee and green tea or anything of that sort. And those things are okay, and I'll tell you why. So simple thumb rule: if your insulin spikes up, anything that you eat, and half an hour later, if your insulin level goes up, that means you're breaking your fast. Okay, from a scientific perspective, anything that keeps your insulin level steady or makes it go down, that means that thing is allowed. So that's the simple way of knowing what you can or can't eat during fasting. Now, fasting is actually miraculous. What happens is, Okay, I'll tell you one very quick thing. So one is, of course, like I said, your insulin level, when it spikes up and it goes down in a fasting level, therefore your body automatically moves to a fat burn mode, right? Now, obviously, it's not going to happen at 12 hours. It kickstarts around 13, 14 hours. That's when your body starts burning fat for energy. Does it mean you're starving? Does it mean you're going to feel low energy and all of that? No, no, not at all. In fact, you will not believe this. So when you're fasting, what happens? Your brain, the brain cannot break down fat just like that. So what happens is, so all the other parts of the body will get its energy from fat easy. For the brain, there's something called, so the fat gets broken down into your liver and produces something called ketones. Ketones is actually brain food. So when you're fasting for a longer period of time, what happens is your mental clarity actually goes up. You feel a lot more alert. In fact, you must have heard of the keto diet, right? Now, ketobiotic diet was actually first, it came out as a research result for people who were epileptic for their treatment. Even today, medically, clinically, keto as a diet is used for people who have Alzheimer's, who have Parkinson's, sometimes in cancer treatments. So keto can be very, very, very miraculous, and we'll talk about that later. I anyway want to cover it in the second half of the cycle. But again, before I go there, just in case I forget, remember, women have to cycle keto. They cannot be doing keto throughout the month. Okay. Now, to come back to Suvarna's question, so fasting is one thing, and like I said, that at one point your fat is getting burned. You have better mental clarity at 17 hours. Okay, and I can go on and on about the miracles of fasting, but I'll keep it concise for today's session. At 17 hours, your body switches into something called autophagy. What is autophagy? Autophagy is literally, it means eating oneself. So what happens is your body breaks down the most weakest and the weakest and the toxic cell in your body for getting what it needs, right? So to get your water and all of those other things. So it breaks it down. So it's the best detox strategy. So if anyone tells you one day, have this raw ka juice, sorry, I have nothing against raw pastry. I have also done that in the past. But if someone tells you cold pressed juice piyo, ek din ke liye, 2 din ke liye, 3 din ke liye, and you will detox, all that is rubbish. You don't need any of that. Most people are out to sell you stuff. Don't listen. 17 hours of fasting, your body goes into a self detox mode. Okay, it's super simple. We don't need anything. Think about it again. I'll give you examples from nature. If you have a pet at home, if the pet falls sick, you'll see him or her, just go into a corner, not eat, not drink. You know what they're doing? They are essentially switching on that healing mechanism inside the body. As human beings, we have become so dependent on medicines. We have become so dependent on what the food industry is constantly telling us. Har 2 ghante mein khao, 8 glass pani piyo, do this, do that. All that is junk. All that is rubbish, because what they're trying to do is sell you stuff constantly. So of course they're going to tell you this. Nobody's going to come and tell you fast, because nobody earns money when they tell you to do that, right? But if you eat your dinner really early, 6-7 o'clock, and you don't eat anything until late in the morning, you are automatically switching your body into the fat burn mode, and and you're getting all the advantages of fasting that we talk about. So Suvarna, that's one thing. Fasting and food, I think if you combine these two things, it's a lot of battle won. Sleep and stress are two other things which are very important, because what happens is, when you don't sleep enough, what happens is a hormone called leptin in your body. Okay, what leptin does is, essentially, your body starts building sleep leptin resistance if you don't sleep enough every day. And when you are leptin resistant, okay, let me explain what is leptin. Leptin is the hormone which goes to your brain and tells it to burn fat. Okay, so all of this that we spoke about, if you're not sleeping enough, it's not going to, it keeps going and telling burn fat, burn fat, burn fat, because your leptin rises. Now the body therefore starts ignoring it. So you build something called leptin resistance. I know sleeping sometimes 8-9 hours is tough, but if you want to not have leptin resistance, I'll give you very quick things. One is sleep for minimum 5 hours every day, minimum 5 hours at a stretch, same time. And this time can't be 4 in the morning. It has to be night. Night sleep is different. So you sleep ideally for 8 hours, but sleep as early as possible. 10 to 2 is when your body recovers the most. So if you can sleep at that time, great. But otherwise, sleep by 11:30, 12 max, and wake up at the crack of dawn. Keep your windows open. what happens is the first light that comes in, the red light in the body, that resets your leptin hormone. Okay, so if you sleep well, if you sleep for the 7-8 hours or minimum 5 hours, sleep at the same time, wake up at the same time, wake up and get some fresh sun in your room, you are switching on one more healing mechanism in your body, and it'll help. Stress, because there's a hormone called cortisol. You must have heard of this. So what happens is when your stress is high, your cortisol levels go up. The first thing, so this is the fight or flight, instinct of the body that kicks in. So the body is going to go and start, first giving cortisol what it needs. And what cortisol, if it's high, then your insulin goes high, and so on and so forth. So all your hormones again go for a toss. So stress, sleep, fasting, food, these are the 4 things I would say. If you balance, your hormones can be balanced. What's the next question? Considering
Thank you, ma'am.
you're welcome. Considering our menstrual cycle, can you point out Indian food type which we should have and not have? Sweetheart, you can have everything and anything as long as it's not junk. I think, okay, so I will come to a few food things before one thing is, remember, any food that is good for the gut, fermented foods, homemade pickles, those are good for you. Indian food actually is very balanced. So if you're eating, let's say, for example, idli dosas, okay, dosas are fermented. They have a good combination of rice and dal in it. So you have your carbs there, you have a little bit of protein as well. Then you have your dal, right? Your sambar. So your sambar is again made of its protein, and then you have a nice coconut chutney, which is fat, right? So you have all the 3 things. But remember one thing, any food, now I'll not comment on Indian or otherwise, because I think, again, the definition of Indian varies from one household to another. But as long as you're having ideally a balanced meal, yes. If you're on a fat loss journey, and even otherwise, I'm a huge believer of low carb, no sugar kind of diet, and fat. Your first thing that needs to go into your body is good fat. Now, when I talk about good fat, you'll think it's oil. Yes, oils, yes, but not refined oils. So when we are talking about oils, we are talking about good oils, good fats. We're talking about good fats like a ghee, the ghee that we make at home. We're talking about coconut oil. We're talking about mustard oil. We're talking about sesame oil. We're talking about oils like these, and these have to be cold pressed. The kachi ghani oil that your mom probably used, when you were younger. The kachi ghani oil is what you need to buy. When you're eating that is healthy for you. But when you're having your refined oils like your canola and your your sunflower or your safflower and all of those other stuff, so all the dhara ka dabba and I won't name brands, it's not right for me to do that, but there's a whole bunch of brands which are out there, right? Ricella, so rice bran oil, all of that is crap. That doesn't help you. So don't use that stuff. Get the right oils. And eat food which is so you need your fats first. The second thing is proteins, and then comes your carbs. Except those 2 phases where I mentioned, especially during the late luteal, where you need to have good carbs. Okay. Now, next question. Could you please explain PCOS, PCOD, and hormones? Yes, Lena. This is an excellent question. And what happens is when your hormones go for a toss, like I said, when your hormones are not in sync, slowly what happens is over a period of time, you'd start developing PCOS first and PCOD and so on and so forth. This session would be too short to really cover those, but PCOS, PCOD, all of this can be healed with just diet. What you can do is, in the forthcoming sessions when you're, I'm not sure, and I think maybe Jambi, you could come in here, or Rudakshi, you all can probably step in here and keep an eye of if there's anyone who has these PCOS, PCOD problems. Anyway, there'll be, weight loss is not the ideal thing. The more important thing is to help them balance their hormones, and weight loss will be a side effect of that anyway. That is a happy side effect. Lena, in case there is any question, please feel free to connect with me outside of the outside of this session as well. Happy to just do a quick chat and explain it to you. So maybe you can get in touch with with Janvi and Rudakshi, and they can help you connect back with me. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'm going to just move on. Okay, we have 20 more minutes. Perfect. So we'll have time for questions again, and I'll take up some of these questions, in case we have time. Okay, we spoke about, we spoke about strong gut, right? We spoke about, now, okay, again, a little bit of your, answering your question again, Lena, little bit is something that I like to talk about. When you go to most, endocrinologists or gynacs, they will try and tell you to heal a particular hormone. So for example, if you have a thyroid problem, they'll say thyroid mein problem hai, iodine badhao, cruciferous vegetables mat khao. They'll give you some medicines and they'll say go, this should heal you. Now, and I'll give you this just one example and you'll understand why, what I'm saying. Your hypothalamus, your pituitary gland, your thyroid, your liver, your gut, and your cell receptors, all of these have, they sell signals to each other in a loop, right? What happens is when any of this is, is not doing its job or is failing to send the signal to each other, the loop goes for a toss, and that's where your hormones, go for a toss. So even if you have a thyroid problem, it doesn't mean that you need to focus only on your thyroid. It's important to focus on your hypothalamus and your pituitary gland. Remember, these two things, in your brain, what happens is these don't have a shield. So when you're eating toxins, okay, yeah, this question brings me back to, this point brings me back to what Suvarna was also saying. What are the factors, right? So toxic load, when you're having stuff which has chemicals in it, when you have around you, and it's sad that everything in our environment is so toxic these days, from the Harpic that we use to clean the toilets, to the Lysol that you're using to clean your your glass or your kitchen counters, from the food that we buy from the markets most of the time. If you're not eating organic food, or the shampoo, the conditioner, the what you apply on the makeup that you apply on your skin, it gets absorbed in 3 seconds flat, right? Now, if these things are not organic, there's some amount of toxin that you are ingesting in your body. Your hypothalamus and your pituitary gland get affected very, very quickly because, like I said, they don't have a shield around them. So if you have PCOD, if you have any kind of hormonal related problem, the first thing to do is to switch to organic produce. Start changing as many things in your house as possible. Yes, it's slightly more expensive, but in the long term, it is, it helps. Yes, I understand everything is not possible. Do as many as you can and leave the rest, right? The second thing, coming back to thyroid, we spoke about your liver. Your liver is where all your hormones get metabolized. So whether it's estrogen, whether it's progesterone, all of those hormones get metabolized in your liver. So it's important to take care of it. Now, what are the foods that you can have to keep your liver healthy? Cruciferous fruits. What are cruciferous foods? It's your cruciferous vegetables. What are they? They are your broccoli, your cabbage, your cauliflower, your Brussels sprouts. These are all cruciferous vegetables. For those who have thyroid, remember, you must steam them before you have them, because a lot of people believe that it might cause a problem. So don't have too much of cruciferous vegetables. Just a disclaimer, I don't want you to fall even more sick. So there's no harm in trying to regulate it. For all of you others, make sure there's a cruciferous vegetable in every single day of your week. Okay. That's important. Now, when you come back to gut, this also answers kind of the question that, I think Smita asked about what food types for the Indian food. Fermented foods, polyphenol foods, probiotic foods, anything that helps your gut grow. Now, get better. So when you're having antibiotics, you're killing the gut bacteria as well, right? Most of us have gotten into this whole cycle of, doctors, you go to a doctor, bahut sardi hai, bahut bukhar hai, chalo antibiotic le lo. Okay, great. Now you have really messed up your gut microbiome. Your gut is where everything starts, right? Everything, your gut has a connection to the brain. It has a connection to your hormones. It has connection to everything. So fixing your gut is important. Again, good food, good quality food. Now, you've heard of stuff like kombucha, sauerkraut, kimchi, Indian pickles, your dahi, yogurt. You'll keep seeing people talking about probiotics. This is the reason why you need to, have a good gut. So have as much diverse foods as possible. Have lots of plants variety. Eat raw in every meal. If you have, go out in nature. Walk barefoot. It's okay to get a little dirty and messy. You can always clean up later. Don't be hygiene obsessed. There are so many things. If you have a pet your pet. The more people you interact with, you're getting bacteria from everywhere. So this good bacteria is going to help you heal your gut. And the most important thing, which most people don't realize, your hormones, even if your body's secreting hormones, everything is balanced. If your cell receptors are blocked, right, because these cell receptors are the ones which get the hormones or allow them to kind of absorb into the cells, right? Now, if your cell receptors are blocked, you're not going to be able to get that in, right? Now, I'll give you quickly three things which you can do to open up these cell receptors. One is, and I've spoken about all of these three things, but very quickly, why you should do this. One is move away from refined sugar and carbs. So your maida, your the useless attas that we get outside, move away from all of that. Sugar, of course, move away from, because these block the cells. You can have, if for the days when you want to have carbs or when you need to have carbs, you can have your kapli wheat, karoti, you can have bajra, you can have jowar, you can have all of those nice whole grains that we talk about. You can have all of those. A lot of your vegetables also have carbs. A lot of, like, for example, potatoes are high starch, high carb vegetables. Beans are high carbs, peas are high carbs. You can have all of these things. So three strategies for cell receptors. One, remove your refined sugar and carbs. Two, remove your refined oils. Remove all the sources of bad fats. And only have the good oils and good fats that we spoke about, right? So that's strategy number two. And strategy number three is remove the toxin load from your body. So the more organic, the more healthier your environment is, and the food that you're eating is, your receptor cells will open up, and that will help you absorb the hormones when it's required, right? I think I have another question here. Please share a few examples of good fats, good carbs, or is there anything in junk food that is that is okay to have? Good question. Good fats, olives are great fats, avocados are great fat, all the ghees and the butter, the homemade butter, Bellona butter, all of those are good fats. The oils that I mentioned, the good ones, olive oil, avocado oil, sesame oil, mustard oil, coconut oil, all of these are good fats. Remember, when it comes to oils, mix them up. Don't have the same kind every day, so use different things for different things. So olive oil, remember, you should never heat it up. So only if you're using it in salad, use it use it like at room temperature, only and only because your smoking point of olive oil is really, really low, and you don't want to you don't want to make it carcinogenic above the smoking point. So that's why no cooking in olive oil. But if you're making pastas and stuff, you can use your avocado oil, you can use flaxseed oil, you can use butter, you can use any of these things. So any of these oils, depending on what you're making. So if you're making Indian food, typically your mustard, your sesame, your your coconut oil, all of these can be used. Ghee can be used comfortably. So all of these are good sources of fat. Good sources of carbs, like I said, start with vegetables. As many vegetables as possible. Have raw as much as possible. The potatoes, all kinds. Sweet potato for women. Sweet potato is amazing. Beets are amazing for you. Whole grains, like I said. So grains which don't have that upar ka shell removed, okay, the bran should not be removed. So the Ashirvad atta, all that atta that we get, it is crap, because the husk has been removed. So all they're giving you is completely refined carbs, which has got no nutritional value. So but if you're getting let's say kapli wheat, or it's also called emma wheat. If you get attas like these, they might not look so attractive, they're slightly reddish, the rotis are not as soft maybe, but they're good for you. They're not going to just they have nutritional value. They're not going to do you harm. They're going to do some good. Or buy stuff like bajra, make bajra ka khichdi. If you're buying rice, buy rice which is like ambe mohar rice. There's so many of these local varieties that we get. You don't need to have basmati just because it looks pretty. So get the sensible desi grains which are non-genetically which are not genetically modified. Get those. Also for women, I forgot to mention these two things. Soy is really, really, really bad. Anything to do with soy, please eliminate it. One is it's highly genetically modified. Two is it mimics the effect of xenostrogens in your body, which means it causes estrogen dominance, which is anyway, like I said, a problem for most women. So remove anything which has soy in it. I just don't like soy at all. Anything which has soy chips, soy milk, just forget all of that. The second thing is corn. Corn is again genetically extremely modified, and it doesn't do you any good. So I know a lot of these things we'll end up eating. Eat them because you know that you're eating it for the taste. Don't eat them because you think it's healthy. Okay. So I hope I answered that question as well. Now, so we've spoken about pretty much everything. Now, when it comes to, therefore, what should you do, right? We spoke about so much that you shouldn't do. And I know there are sessions which are being planned in detail later, but what I believe is that if you fasting, keto, and when I say ketobiotic, remember, I'm not talking about the keto diet, which talks about cream and cheese and all of that stuff. Technically it works, yes, but what I'm talking about is a ketobiotic diet, which will be low carb, which, or if you want to take the name away, take the name away, but it is a low carb diet, no sugar diet. It has, you're eating clean, so eating organic, lots of raw vegetables, lots of steamed stuff, lots of fermented food, lots of those other foods that we spoke about. We spoke about sauerkraut, we talked about kimchi, kombucha. All of these are probiotics. You can have curd if you don't want to have any of these. You can have, so you eating stuff for your gut and eating healthy, but you're keeping your carbs below net, ideally 50 grams, and protein around 50 grams, and 60% of your diet comes from good fat. So that's what you should be eating most of the month. In your late luteal phase, I would like you to have a lot more carbs, like I said. So at this point of time, you can go up to 150, 200 grams also. I mean, I leave it to you how many rotis you want to eat and all of that, but make sure that it comes in from vegetables. Have fruits at this time, because when you're low carb, you might not be able to have fruits too many, because too much fruit is also a problem. It spikes your insulin levels up. So have berries, however, is something that you can have every single day, so whatever local berries are available, those nice, colorful, you have strawberries, you have raspberries, you have so many berries, different berries, example, or varieties that you get in India. You can have all of those through the month. But in your, just a week before the period and stuff like that, you need to have tropical fruits. You need to have, your citrus fruits. You need to have, so tuck into those, think of these as feast days and say that, okay, I'm going to have my mango today and enjoy it, and have that. Again, don't overdo it, because remember, all fruits really spike your insulin levels up. But I'm still a huge fan of fruits because of the nutrient, because how nutrient dense they are. But fruit juices are useless, so fruit juices you can skip. So again, like I said, cycling between fast and different kinds of fast, cycling between keto diet and your hormone food diet, like I said, with lots of carbs and stuff. All of this is great, and I think if you do these, you'll start seeing the results, not just in weight loss. You'll have inch loss, your skin will start glowing, your hair will be fabulous. So remember, your period and your hair, these are the two things which are like a report card for your health. So if you have fantastic, luscious, nice shiny hair, and your period is regular, and you bleed normally, not too much, not too little, that you are healthy. For women, these are the two things that are the best indicators. And of course, if you're doing it over a period of time, you'll see that your skin is glowing, you don't fall sick every day. If your gut is healthy, your immunity goes up, and you'll be overall healthy, happy, highly energetic. So yeah, any other questions? Yeah, I see another question here. Should we avoid dairy products such as milk, buttermilk, if we have PCOD or thyroid? I don't believe in milk per se, because milk is meant for cows, not for humans. Having said that, I know that in the Indian, in the Indian food calendar, milk plays a very important role. And a lot of you are probably vegetarians, and it becomes very difficult for you to quit milk. Now, of course, there are alternative milk sources, like you get almond milk, you get coconut milk. Now, all of that can be made at home and had. But if you're going to have milk, if you must have milk, then I suggest you switch to A2. So you get A2 milk, you get A2 curd, you get A2 ghee. A2 is essentially a different protein, okay? And it is easier it is the closest to mother's milk, mother's breast milk, or to the human milk, and it is easy for you to digest it. So move to A2. A lot of us don't realize we are lactose intolerant. Most of us are lactose intolerant. So if you feel that you have a major lactose intolerance, then yes, you need to stop. Otherwise, just move to A2 if you can. Or like I have removed milk from my diet completely. I do have the occasional paneer and stuff, because I like it so much, but I try and get A2, or sometimes I just have it, but knowing that it's not doing me any good, and knowing that it's not the best thing that I'm doing to myself. What else? Yeah, is there any direct relation between hydration and hormone balance? Hydration. Okay, we spoke about water earlier, right? I was saying 8 glasses of water is a myth. Hydration is important. Does it have to be plain water? No. So if you're going to have, see, there's only so much that we can eat and drink during the day, right? So yes, hydration is important for the body to answer this question, but it doesn't have to be from plain water. It can be vegetable juices. It can be vegetables which are naturally dense in in water. For example, if you're having cucumber, if you're having or fruits like watermelon, these are naturally water based, right? And therefore having these can also help you. So it's not about eight, but yes, hydration overall is definitely important. Women actually need it more than men, if you're going to compare the two. I hope that answered the question. I don't see any more questions here, so I think I'll open it to the floor. I hope I've kind of covered most things. I wanted to really talk about the principles and the basics of weight loss and inch loss and hormonal balance, because all of us here are women. But if you have questions, shoot. I'm happy to take another 10 minutes and answer all your questions.
Rashmi, I have one question.
Please.
Yeah. As you mentioned that there are times during the cycle when we feel more outgoing, more confident, and more socially attractive or active in
Yeah.
both senses.
Yeah.
So, are there periods? Are there phases also when we feel more depressed,
Yeah.
or we tend to take more stress?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
how do we manage that? If you can just cover that in
Absolutely.
in brief.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, in the second half, in the week 10 days before your period is when you are in the luteal phase, right? That is when your inner critic wakes up. This is the time when you feel most self-critical of yourself, which is really weird, but if you start plotting this down on a piece of paper, if you take your if you have whatever the cycle time is, and you start writing down basis the menstrual day how you're feeling each day, you'll start seeing a pattern coming up. In most women, like I said, it's in the week 10 days before the period. The whole PMS thing, people think it's normal. It's not normal. It's common, but it's not normal. Nature did not make us create us in a way that we have to feel miserable about our lives every month. It's like the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, because people think PMSing is normal. It's not normal. Period cramps is not normal, guys. I mean, it can be fixed. And how it can be fixed is by simply eating. These are all lifestyle diseases. I understand hormonal imbalance can sometimes be genetic, and some of these problems can be there, but it can be fixed with just diet and the right foods. To answer your question, what are the things that you can do to help? Magnesium is extremely important for women. So if you, again, I'm not a huge fan of supplements, because I think we can get it from foods. But if not, if you have major PMS problems, or if you feel anxious every month in in the time leading up to the period, or feeling really really miserable about self, watch your magnesium levels. I'm sure they're deficient. You can have stuff like bananas. You can have dark organic chocolate sweetened with jaggery. Go ahead and have those 2 pieces every day if you will, but especially in the second half of your period. Those are things which are good for you. Okay, another quick one, something that I surprisingly missed mentioning, not related to your question, but since I remember it, I'll just say this. When you're eating, eat in a 55 minute window, 45 to 50 minutes window. So that's your one meal. Don't have several meals during the day. Limit your meal to 3 or 4 times max. Some days you can just go 2 meals. Some days I say that all women should at least go once a week with just one meal in a day. You have enough inside of you. We have enough stuff inside our bodies to be able to just handle one day of fasting. It sounds a lot, but slowly, if you go from 13 hours to 14 hours to 15 hours, one day a week, that's it. You're just cleansing so much when you do that. Did that answer your question, or did I miss out on anything?
No. That did. It did answer my question. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Any other questions, guys?
Hello, Rashmi. I
Yeah.
have one question. As you mentioned that fasting is good to lose the weight. If the water diet means water diet in that 10 days of water diet is good to lose the weight very fastly.
Okay, you know what? Fasting is great. When you're going to do 10 days of, water diet, it can be dangerous, right? So you have to be very careful when you're fasting. If you have a health coach, if you have, someone guiding you through it, I would definitely not recommend 10 days at a go. Don't go. Okay, one more thing. When you move from, when you move to fasting, you'll start feeling some heaviness around your head. It's a very common thing. A little bit of that discomfort is expected because your body is not used to it, right? We are so addicted to sugar and carbs that your body is asking for it. It's an addiction. Okay, it's actually an addiction. So cocaine addiction is easier to lose than a sugar addiction. It is that bad. So sugar is that addictive. There have been several experiments done on this. So what happens is when you are moving away and not having carbs or not giving your body the food that it is used to, it is going to resist. Like I said, a mild discomfort at about 12, 13 hours is expected. Even for some people come in as early as 8, 9 hours. So be mindful of that. That is still okay. But if you're getting a full-blown headache or if you're feeling nauseous, you need to stop the fast right then and there and end it with a nice buttermilk or a nice probiotic. Yakult is not a probiotic in my opinion, okay, because it's got too much sugar in it. So please, when I say probiotic, don't go and buy Yakult. I'm sorry, I keep mentioning brands, but it just infuriates me that what crap is being sold in the market in the name of good health. So 10 days water fast. No, sweetheart, I would definitely not recommend that. Although there is plenty of evidence to show that it is beneficial, it has to happen gradually. So start with intermittent fasting, which you probably have already heard of. Start with 13 hours, slowly move to 14 hours, 15 hours. You can take it up to, I have personally done 3 days of fasting without anything, without even water. But that comes in with first eating healthy and, regulating knowing your body really well, being really, really self-aware. You can heal a lot of problems. At 72 hours, your body secretes stem cells. Stem cells are the one cells which can take any form that is required by the body. So that's how miraculous the body is. But don't jump into 10 days water fast in one go. Please don't do that.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. Any other questions? I'm so glad when I hear questions, that means people were listening and not sleeping. Any questions, guys? Come on, ask. If you have anything, I'm happy to answer. And then no question is stupid, okay? Don't feel that, it's a silly question. Go ahead and ask. I guess there are no questions.
I have one question.
Yeah, tell me.
Till now, I have not done fasting. So
Okay.
if I want to do a start fasting, then how much hours I should do it? Means for starting.
Yeah. So starting, I think a 13 hours is the best thing. To anything less than 13 hours is meaningless. So start at 13. What you can do is, okay, guys, it's important to align your fasting to your circadian rhythm. So at sunset, you stop eating. At sunrise, you can eat again. Okay. So what you do is, let's say you eat dinner. What time do you usually eat dinner? I'm sorry, I can't see the name whoever asked me this question.
My
Can
name is Archana. I used to have my dinner around 9 o'clock.
and what time do you sleep?
11.
So dinner ideally should be had at least 3 hours before you sleep. So in any case, you should have dinner, by 8. But if you're going to be fasting, I would recommend that you finish it by 6:37 if you can, and then you can. So if you have, let's say, at 7 o'clock, then you can have your breakfast around 8ish. And slowly from 8, you can push it to 9 and then to 10 and then to 11. So 13 hours, 15 hours, 17 hours. This is how I look at it. So 13 hours is great because you at least getting your insulin levels regulated. At 15 hours, you start burning fat. At 17 hours, you switch into autophagy. And then 17 hours se start karke, you can, as long as you can remain, you remain in that, because then you know that you're detoxing nicely. Going up to 24 hours has its own advantage, and so on and so forth. So to answer your question, start with 13 hours. And make sure that the meal that you're having before you start your fast, make sure it's low in carbs and sugar, because that will make it easy for you. Okay, so you have a light meal, have an early dinner, and make sure that it is super healthy and not full of sugar and carbs. Otherwise, it'll make it tougher for you to fast. And if you feel that you're getting headachy, you can add, like I said, a little bit of salt. You can also have green tea if you want. I mean, for 13 hours, you'll not need any of this stuff because it's so simple, right? You're just going to sleep. But for those who are, let's say, who want to get into longer fasts, you can also take your any medicines that you take, which you're supposed to take at a specific time. You can go ahead and take those meds as well. Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sure. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.
Uh,
One second.
Hi.
There's a question. Yeah, sorry, go on.
So you mentioned about fat burn and sugar burn. So
Correct.
when we talk about specifically, we want to target fat burn.
Right.
So anything specific that we need to make change in our diet so that it is fat burn rather than sugar burn?
Yeah, of course. So if you keep having a high carb diet, obviously you get giving your body. See, so when will the body move to fat burn is what you need to understand, right? So when your body will move to fat burn when it doesn't have, when you're not giving it any sugar or carbs, right? It'll be forced to go to fat, right? Which is by the keto diet. So anything which is 50 grams, net 50 grams of carbs, 50 grams, around protein, and 60% food coming from fat, good fats. That essentially takes you into ketosis. Okay, it takes some time for the body to switch into ketosis, but it does. That's when your body will start burning fat. So those are the macros: less than 50 grams of net carbs, less than or around 50 grams of proteins, and 60% of your food coming in from good fats. Those are the macros to switch your body into a ketobiotic state. Now, make sure when you're doing this, you have at least 1 cup of fermented anything that you're having, or probiotic of, it could be yogurt, it could be kombucha, it could be anything. Okay, so if you're doing this with lots of veggies and good stuff, your body will move into fat burn. Your body will also move into fat burn if you're fasting for a longer period of time. Okay, because fasting again regulates the, your sugar levels are essentially, your sugar is depleted from the blood, and therefore the body will be forced to move to fat for energy. Did that answer your question?
Yes, that did. Thank you. One more question I had.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
today we actually, maybe you didn't mention it. It's not that it about sprouts, but have read it a lot that we should have sprouts
Great.
when we are dieting. So just wanted to understand.
Okay, diet. Okay, first of all, let's take the word away, dieting completely. Okay, it's just like I said, call it metabolic flexibility, if you will. There's no such thing as dieting because everyone's food is different. Sprouts are great. Okay, microgreens and sprouts are great foods. They are superfoods. When you are trying to lose weight, it is not about sprouts. Now think, what are sprouts? Sprouts are typically you'll be sprouting your pulses, right? You're sprouting your beans and your moong and all of that. All of this is high carbs. So when you are taking your body, so while it's great food for you, this is great to have in the time when your body needs more carbs, not in the time where you're trying to burn fat for energy. Remember that. So the moment you start asking yourself, what are you eating? Is it carbs? Is it protein? Is it fat? Your answer will be clear. There's a question here which I like to take up before someone else asks. Priya is asking, should we not have anything at all after 7, not even fruits or milk or dry fruits? My mom says that it's okay to have something very light or drink milk post dinner. Your mom is right. Ideally, okay, so here's the way I look at it. If you think about it again, your body has an automatic feast and famine cycle, which is in the day is when you're feasting, in the night you go into the famine mode where you stop eating, right? Your circadian rhythm should ideally be aligned with, or this should be ideally aligned with your circadian rhythm. So you eat during the day, you stop eating during the night or the eve once the sun sets. What is the logic behind it? Because the first half of the morning, like in the morning, this time right now, what we are by all the way up to 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock is when your body is in an elimination phase, which means it's throwing out, which is why you poop in the morning when you wake up, right? It's throwing out all the shit from the body, literally shit from the body. In the daytime is when your body is digesting, because that's when you've had your lunch, it goes through the digestion process. In the evenings and the night is when it gets into the repair mode. We've also slowed down, you're not running around. During the day, you're also working, you're doing so many things. So your body needs energy. So it's taking it from the food and it's constantly in the digestion process. In the night is when, they say that when kids sleep, that's when they grow. You must have heard this, from your grandmom or your mom. that's a time when your body is being repaired. It needs rest, it needs to restore itself, from everything that it has gone through. Now what happens is, the moment you eat something, the body has to start digesting it all over again. So the digestion process, the body has to take it first. It can't start repairing until if it's still digesting, which is why you should not eat anything post 7. When it comes to have your milk or your dry fruits or anything, dry fruits are, a lot of people say dry fruits you should have in the evenings. I would say have it with your meal, because dry fruits actually, or any kind of nuts. And when I say dry fruits, I'm only talking about nuts. Not dry fruits is not, dates is not dry fruits. Kishmish is not dry fruit. Okay, those are dried fruits. Sorry, those are dried fruits. But I'm talking about nuts right now. So I'm guessing you're talking about almonds and cashews and walnuts. So when it comes to nuts, those help you repair. It aids in the restoration process, which is why having them in the evening is a great idea, instead of having them just like that, because I prefer to have my nuts and stuff in the morning, soak it overnight and have it in the morning. But if you need to absolutely have something for good sleep and all of that, you can make a almond milk in the evenings and finish off your meal with that, and not have anything after 7 o'clock. And fruits, definitely not, because fruits are high energy, right? High sugar, high energy. So fruits are best had in the morning.
Hi. So what all can we have during the fasting period, during the intermittent fasting period?
So intermittent fasting period, you can have water. You can have, green tea. Some people, if you absolutely must have coffee, organic coffee. Remember one thing: most of the coffee that you get in the markets have mold on it. So look for an organic source. Else you can have black organic coffee. That will not, you can even add a teaspoon of coconut oil. I know it sounds disgusting, but that's actually good for you. So if you're trying to get into the fat burn mode and all of that, so bulletproof coffee is what it's called. You don't need to buy the MCT oil. Coconut oil, a nice cold pressed coconut oil does the trick. If it sounds disgusting, don't have it. But green tea, coffee, water, these are the only 3 things. When you're having water, especially on longer fast, please add the Himalayan pink salt, or what. And yeah, ideally you should move to that from your regular salt. That is good for you because it's got some minerals which your body needs, right? So these are the 3 things. Remember one thing: your body is getting all the energy it needs. So it's more of a brain thing, it's more of a mind thing, thinking that I'm fasting so I'm weak. You are not weak. Your mental clarity goes up. So anyone who tells you they're fasting and they're weak, it's because they're doing stupid things like eating fruits and other things, while they're fasting, which is not how it's supposed to be. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So milk is prohibited, and can we take salt as well?
Okay, again, anything that will spike your insulin level up is prohibited, because if you have even a glass, even a teaspoon of milk, it'll spike up your insulin. So the only real way to really make out is to test your blood sugar. Now, obviously, I'm not going to ask you to prick your finger and test your blood sugar every time you eat, right? So some of the things which are universal: water with a little bit of salt, bulletproof coffee, which is black coffee without any sugar, without any milk, and green tea. I don't recommend coffee so much, again, because coffee can cause acidity to a lot of people. So I personally prefer just water with a little bit of salt in it, or sometimes green tea. Yeah. No milk. To answer your question, no milk. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, thank you. I'm glad I made you think of weight loss connected to your hormone and menstrual cycle. In fact, I knew this for many years and I've been following it myself. And I used to also run an agency and stuff. 2 years ago, I quit from everything that I was doing because, it's just sad that as women, we don't know what's going on inside our own bodies. And I think it comes from so much of the taboo around menstruation itself, right? People are so ashamed of the word menstruation. We are so ashamed of our cycle. Periods is considered to be, I don't know, a blot on a womankind or something like that. It just, people say it's dirty. It's not dirty. It's a beautiful process. Our bodies are capable of, creating life itself. And if we don't understand our internal seasons, I'm sorry, Rudraksha, I know I couldn't cover those because, we wouldn't have enough time. But like she touched upon briefly, we have our own inner winter, in a summer, spring, and autumn. And imagine the moment you tune yourself back to that cycle, and you know that this is what I'm going through. So menstruation, for example, your period, for example, is when it's winter. So what you eat during that time, if it's aligned to a winter season, because internally you're going through a winter season, it's beautiful when you do that. You start healing yourself, you start feeling so much happier. It's about the energy. I always say that, see, weight loss is just incidental, guys. And I know, who doesn't want to look good, right? If I put on weight, I'm like, shit, man, I need to go and lose those 5 kilos. But it should not be about the weight loss. It's about how you feel about yourself. The moment you know what's happening inside your body, the moment you feel that, that inner glow has to come out, right? And that food is such a good thing. When you stop eating junk for 21 days, just try it for 20 days, just to do it for one cycle, and just try and map out what you're doing, when you're doing, what you're eating. If I'll just share my Instagram handle. I run this company called Ainari. Ainari is a women's health platform which helps people balance a hormonal cycle. It's called INAARI. I'll just type it in here. There are a lot of videos which where I talk about how you can align to your menstrual cycle, how you can talk about we're doing a lot about fasting, and more importantly, how you're likely to feel at different phases of your hormone cycle. So you're very lucky your organization has organized this organize this session for you, and you will have someone hand holding you through all of this. But something, whatever I shared today, even if see, because there's only so much that's possible to cover, right? But be aware and write down and try and start understanding your own patterns. When you do that, you'll just feel so much more empowered. You'll not feel that you don't know what's happening with you. Because often I've heard this, husband wife trying the same diet, going to the same gym, shadi karni hai to girlfriend boyfriend unko, they're doing everything, and the guy is losing weight happily, everything is happening, and here the woman is struggling and she's feeling miserable about herself, and the guy is telling her that, hey, look how I did so great. Yeah, you did great, because the whole world is aligned to your cycle. Of course you're doing well. Nobody's looking at us and telling us that, how do we do it. So fine, let people not tell us, but we can go and get that information from somewhere, and we can align it to our own cycles. So the only thing I'd say is embrace your cycle. Be happy that you have a cycle, and that what's happening in your body at different phases. It's just so beautiful. So I'm happy I got a chance to share it with you guys.
Absolutely true, Rashmi. Thank you so much. It was a wonderful session.
I'm
It was
glad I did.
indeed a wonderful session. Just a small comment that I would like to add here, Rashmi, if it is in reference to this, I feel it is. So context has been set for today's Mahashivratri, I believe. So we will look at the fasting in a very different perspective, from a very different perspective. And from whatever you told us today, I feel that there is a central bindu or a central energy
Yes.
around which we all are moving. And it is a cyclical pattern. So you
Yes.
mentioned there is a menstrual cycle, there is a inner season cycle, there is hormone cycle, then there is a circadian rhythm, there is feast and famine cycle in the body. So it's as if we are revolving around this central energy and trying to be harmonious with the energy which is centrally located. So it was so wonderful to have you speaking such great things that we have never really wondered about, or we have never really known. So thank you so much for bringing in such
pleasure.
beautiful insights. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you guys. It was lovely speaking to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.